Announcement. Hey, stewards, we got some big news for our Patreon.
We are now going to be doing exclusive Q&As that are only coming from our Patreon subscribers. So if you've had a burning question for us to answer live on the pod, get onto our Patreon. You can drop your question right in the messaging board, and select questions will be answered directly on air from the podcast. So make sure you get onto our Patreon, subscribe,
right.
Drop those questions in there, and we will answer them on the pod.
Yes.
We love you, stewards. Let's get into it. Welcome to Good Service. We are your hosts, Ben Chung.
And Kevin's up.
Each week, we'll be bringing you real, raw, and vulnerable talks about life, faith, and everything in between, and always over a fire meal.
Pull up a chair. Let's eat.
Folks, welcome back to Good Service. We are your hosts, Ben.
And Kevin.
And we have our sisters, our dear friends, finally in the pod today. We have two guests today. We have first guest, entrepreneur, former street pharmacist.
Hey.
She's a creative problem solver, business strategist, YWAM alum, co-founder of MILLU. And we have her partner, founder and CEO of Gen, social media and influencers intern at Nintendo of America.
Oh.
First place in Biola startup competition in 2020 and 2021. Also co-founder of MILLU. We have Sena and Sarah Hartono in the pod.
Bro, that title.
I know.
Former street pharmacist. It was already posted somewhere, so I figured I could include that in here.
I see.
Sarah, your website's pretty dope.
Oh no, you looked at my website.
I did look at your
You
website.
have a
So
website?
bad.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love your TLDR. It was just the logos.
Yeah.
That was really smart.
Gotta help out
Yes.
the visual learners.
Yes. Okay.
Nice.
So we have a first bite reflection question, which kicks off our conversation. First of all, today we're having a meal from two restaurants.
Yeah,
Feasting.
We just went ham today.
Let's
So
go.
Hey.
Azuma, which is a local Japanese restaurant here in Gardena, California.
Okay.
We have their black cod. We have a bunch of bento boxes. We have like a pork curry, yako, which is a cold tofu. We have chicken katsu. What is this fish again? Saba. And then we
Yeah.
have like their sashimi platter. And then where is this from, Kevin?
This is a salad from Thai Bowl Grill
Thai
in
Bowl
Gardena.
Grill.
Let's go, Thai Bowl Grill.
Dude, Thai bowl grill. So it's an Asian day today.
Gardina's got
Yep,
to eat.
yep.
Yeah. All right. So, you know what's cool. So I thought I had a first bite reflection question because I like to just, what do these people do? And I'm like, okay, they're like startup founders. I'm like, oh, I was like, oh, okay, like what's God starting up in your life? And then I prayed more, and then I felt like God was like, no, that's not the question. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like this is relevant probably for this entire room. So I felt the question was, what is God healing you from? What is God healing you from right now? So,
Man, dude, why you gotta
I
walk-
know.
come
That's like
on.
such a
sorry.
heavy,
It's not
heavy
my
hitter.
fault.
It's like we just started.
It's not my fault.
Like, we
It's
just
not
pray
my
for
fault.
joy.
I know.
Can I just
Hey,
eat-
you know what?
take
There's
one bite first?
reason to be joyful when you've been
Amen.
healed,
I
right?
get heartburn thinking
So
about
no zero heartburn. I'm gonna prep my bite. What am I
that.
going
All
for
right,
first?
let's all get our bite ready.
I'm gonna get my tofu first. So here we go.
And then we do a little air dab. Air dab. Boop,
Yep. Cheers.
boop. Think Sarah picked the hardest
Mm,
bite.
Okay, hold on. She's ambitious.
Ooh, I need
Nice
soy
one.
sauce. Shout out Azuma and Thai Bowl Grill for the delicious eats. What did you eat? What was it? Was it the sausage?
The salad. Is
Oh, the
so
salad.
good.
That was fire.
Can we do second bites?
Yes. Okay.
good.
Second bite
Second bite.
reflection.
Wow, that is good.
Wait.
So good.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that?
It was like
It's very-
something Todd,
It's very citrusy.
but it's
like-
like I'm sorry,
Very
Thai Bowl
summery.
Grill,
Very fitting.
I'll look you
Mom.
up
Shallots.
and we'll put it in.
Yeah,
the
we'll
comments.
find it we'll put it in the captions.
Man, this sausage is.
I feel like we're all on our fifth bite right
Yeah.
now. Is that
Yeah.
Challenge
Okay,
now.
sorry.
Maybe
So-
because
Well,
we're
there's
still
two
thinking.
meals.
We're still thinking.
What is God healing?
What is God
me
healing
from?
you from right now?
You know, I think I could start it off because that way you guys could enjoy the food. You know, I don't know what it was, but before anything actually happened this week, I already started with tons of anxiety. And And it was actually really weird. So I think that I know at least right now God is healing me from anxiety.
Yeah.
And I think where
Let's go.
it started was anytime I don't know that I'm in control, it freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the word lets me know that I'm not in control. So it freaks me out. And it's just so crazy because I'm trying to really lean in because God has been working with me. So I know what the rules are to life, yet it's so hard for me to accept it. So I got convicted in the middle of the week. I don't know what I was rabbit holing into or what pastor I was listening to. I don't even know her name or what she was teaching or if she was a pastor. But all I knew was that she said something that really convicted me, which was she was just looking at the viewer and said, how could you learn every single thing about the Lord? How can you know all the rules and say no and turn the other way? How can you do that? And it really hurt me actually just listening to that, because every day that is my struggle and my battle is knowing it all and yet ignoring it all.
Yeah.
And it causes so much fear, so much anxiety, so much unrest in my soul. And so there was a lot of moments where peace was brought on and I was just seeking peace this week. And that's all I really, really wanted. But in that, so much happened this week. Like all this stuff, whether it was work related, whether it was my house, just so many different things. And finding peace was so hard because I was trying to make my own peace with my own two hands. And so that's what God is helping with me right now is my anxiety. My anxiety has been really, really out of control lately. But yeah, but the funniest thing is, even right now, even as we were praying before the podcast or coming into it, I didn't have too much peace even coming here today. But what's awesome is that coming into this meal and praying for joy and to have that faith like a child, like the children.
Okay.
Children? Hey, children's kind of fire. Children? Children. I like that.
No, but I love it though. And it just, it brought me immediate joy because I thought of my kids.
Yeah.
I thought of my sons. And it's crazy how quick they could fall, scrape, cry, then snap out of it and run. And so what I learned about the enemy is they try to prolong the separation, right?
Good.
And so just like my kids that I always learn from, I just got to get up and seek joy. And so that was a good prayer. That was a good prayer. Yeah.
Man, see God.
He always pulls through.
He always.
Yeah, God's dope.
You know, it's funny because like, we came into the room today with not the best energy. Definitely for me too. And yeah, that like God already knew, like, you know, when I was praying, like, God, what's the question that we start off with? And it's like, what is God healing you from? And like, even like now, like God is healing us now from the energy that we came into the room with. Yes, praying for joy. And like, I feel joy right now. I don't feel the heaviness of whatever I came in here with. It's so cool to see God just in real time heal. I would say for me, one thing that I feel like God is healed/healing. And that's actually what's cool too, is sometimes we think that healing is like a one-time event, you know, like you've been healed, so you don't ever have any symptoms of whatever that thing was. But I don't think that's necessarily, healing is not always linear. It's not this like one and done. It's a process. And so I think for me, what God is healed/healing me from is an identity crisis. And I think for the longest, and I've talked about this many times on this podcast, like, who are you? And a lot of times we attach our identity to the things that we are affiliated with, the things that we're sort of like known for, what we do, whether that's a career thing or just like what people recognize you for. And I realized that it's such a easy thing to be like, yeah, that's who I am, because it's a part of who you are, but it's not your actual, like the core of your identity. And I feel like God made it very clear. He's like, all those things that you think make up who you are or why you're significant, like that's not why you're significant. Mm-hmm. And I was actually reminded of it yesterday. I had a coffee with a friend of mine, and he was just asking me about like work related things, and we've known each other. Well, actually, he's just known of me for a while, and we kind of got close in the past year. But like, he was saying, he's like, yeah, that's interesting, Ben. Like when I think of you, he's like, I don't even think about all that stuff of your past. I think of you as the person you are now. He's like, to be honest with you, like I don't affiliate you with like, oh, Ben from Jabberwockies and Kinjas. It's like, I don't even think about that. He's like, I just know Ben Chung, this man that, I've gotten close to in the last year. I'm like, wow. That's like, for some weird reason, that was really encouraging to me. Like, wow, that's cool. And so I think it was this sense of like, sometimes I'm not even aware of, not to say that it's a matter of like people pleasing or caring about what people think about you, but sometimes what people think about you, you don't even realize, because you may think like, this is probably what they think about me when they see me or when they hear my name. And then when you realize like, oh, that's not even what they think, like that's not how they view you. Like, oh, wow. So you view me in this light instead. And I don't know. I was just really encouraging, and like, I'm a son of God. That is like my identity. And that is the thing that goes with me even beyond this life, your resume doesn't go with you. Yeah. Your possessions don't go with you. Yeah. And so, I think that healing that identity crisis is something that I feel like God has healed / is healing, and will probably be like a lifetime process, because I forget sometimes too. I mean, I forget a lot of times of that. So that's me.
Just to add on to that, that's something that Sena says a lot, is we learn the same lessons, but it's in deeper layers every time. And I think it's been an honor to grow with her and just wrestle through those layers. Or we're teaching each other, and we like to say like discipling one another through those layers. It's like, man, this again, but no, there's so much more nuance. There's so much more depth that we're like going at it. So it's encouraging to hear you're going through that too, and wrestling too.
Yeah. And Ben, I feel like we've got to witness that for both of you. But Ben, like you're marked with such humility that throughout the years, like that wrestle has been a beautiful journey of the becoming. It's always who you are, but it's like shifting out what is the old and what is the new that has always been. And you have done it with such humility. And like both you and Kevin have been on this journey for the past couple of years to even want to say, hey God, I want to know what's underneath all of this, all of the smoke and the screen, all of the illusions and the facade. I want the real thing. Is an act of faith, because it's so vulnerable, and it's kind of sticky and hurts a little bit, because the rest of the world isn't doing that. Yeah. Especially living in LA sometimes. But you guys have gone on that journey. So thank you guys for giving us the privilege of being so close to see that in you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's very encouraging.
It is.
What about for you, Sarah? What are you healing from?
I think for me, it was, just because like, Gen Z, I like to say like age pressurized. So we do a lot of things in our youth, and we feel that there's a need to achieve. And there's so many reasons behind that. I think one of them that's unique to our generation, a little bit, I'm sure it is in every generation though, but there's a strong like justice side where it's like, hey, like there needs to be something done about the problems in the world. We need to use our talents. Like we're not as like, okay, all about money, but it's like, hey, can we do something in the world to make a difference? And that's like impact and meaningful for a lot of people, a lot of my friends, me and my friends. I think just that kind of view though, without a true foundation in the Lord, actually set me towards a lot of workaholism, where when life got hard, I would just run to work, which gets a lot of praise, to be able to fulfill me. And I thought that was like a good thing, because I would get, rewarded through, hey, it looks good. A lot of people are praising me, etc. But I think like again, the works aren't bad necessarily, but just the rate and the rhythm and the pace, it wasn't honoring to like what I felt was right to live out my priorities. So I think in recent years, it's really ironic, but actually like doing startup and starting a company where you would think you have to give into work culture and hustle culture has actually been healing me, because being given the flexibility to arrange my own like schedule, be able to work together in a way that, I don't know, is like more conducive towards, like I already have a good work ethic, good enough, but being able to manage it and like develop intentional rhythms and not just give in to like how everyone else does it. I think that's been really meaningful, and I've just been able to slow my soul in the recent years. So it's been good.
Sarah teaches a lot of people, not just me, about Sabbath rhythms, and she's learned it at an early age. And so maybe later on we can share about that. But it's been really cool to learn to be partners with somebody who really values Sabbath, because that's where you draw your source and energy from. We can work as much as we want, but from what power, from what source if we're not Sabbathing? And even just like getting more creative by doing nothing, you know, and sitting with the Holy Spirit, because that's when he drops. Because he's not in a hurry. And so he's not going to like, you know, match up to us. It's like when we calm down. And I really appreciate that. And Sarah, you know, this is such a hard question. It's like, what are you healing? What aren't we healing from is the better question in 2024. But if I were to say something, and there's many things, I think I'm also healing from the tension of holding gifts or a calling that Jesus puts inside of us. Whether that's how to use it or how to hide it, or not hide it, but there's seasons that he calls us to come into the secret place with him, and how to even navigate, hey, when is the seasons of coming out, coming in? Because I feel like it's a flow. I don't feel like we're ever called to just always be. And that goes back to the Sabbath rhythms and where we get our source from. But you had mentioned healing being a process. And for me, it sounds like the process of sanctification. Like if healing is us becoming more as the person God created us to be, but we're born in a broken and fallen world, and then our little bodies react and have experiences. And as we grow and get more revelation of who Jesus is, there's a deeper invitation to sanctification, which happens till the day we die and see him face to face. And so healing thus is obviously a never ending process. But for me, I think, the gifts thing is there's moments where I was really free to discover what gifts look like, skills look like, even just character or things like that too. And then there's moments where you're like, oh, I would do it a little bit differently in this season now that I know a little bit and I'm more matured a little bit. And then there's seasons where you get so scared and you want to hide it because you feel like you're not ready or things have changed. And so I think I'm in the process of really understanding healing myself in that, like, what does that look like with my relationship with Jesus, so that I can just be all that he created me to be.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
I never thought of healing as almost synonymous with sanctification. Like I totally see that. Like if we are, sanctification is a lifetime process. Like we will never be perfected until the day we're with the Lord. And like healing is like we're becoming more and more like the person of Jesus, which is our original design. We're called to be like Jesus. And so in that sense, healing is forever too, which is really cool. Man, there's so many directions I feel like I want to take this conversation, but like I definitely want to talk about MILLU. You guys are co-founders of this amazing startup. But before we get into like what you guys are building, I'd love to get a little bit backstory. I mean, your guys' friendship and partnership is super interesting. I'd love for you, however you guys want to go back into the origin of even just your own story / to how you guys came into this partnership, and then why MILLU, why are you guys building what you're building? Whoever wants to take it.
I can tee it up and then Sarah, you can go because she maybe has a funnier version. But I'll tee it up to say that I truly believe in divine relationships and divine friendships, that the Lord will highlight you or highlight other people. He'll close doors and open doors. And it's a matter of just really showing up because you don't know the fuller picture. And that's literally our day to day, even today. I feel like for most of us too, we're just show up. Like, show up.
Yeah.
But the story of us meeting till now is a God story, because there would honestly be no reason for Sarah and I to start a business together, to even probably be friends. Though I think she's the dopest person now and so cool. But in the beginning, it really was little inches of God, just like kind of dropping different nuggets in. And so long story short, I'll tee up the front end, which is I went to an organization called YWAM for a long time, and I felt like the Lord was calling me back into business. And he called me to Biola, had no idea what it was, God's story in itself, that one. But I was studying business, and I knew the type of learning style that I'm more accustomed to, which is application quickly. Learn it and then apply it. And so I'm like reading all these textbooks, and I'm like, okay, this is great. It's all theoretical, and I love these little mock-up samples, but I want to like get my hands dirty. So we found out about the startup competition, asked around about it. Mind you, I say that I joined later because I'm like 27 at this point with like 18, 19-year-olds, which was really dope for me. And I'm like asking around, don't really know many people there. And they're like, you need to meet this girl, Sarah Hartono. She won last year. And so then I slid into her DMs. She's like, hey, I think we're in the same class, which we so happened to be in a couple of classes together during COVID. So we never met each other in person. But I'm like, okay, that girl's in my class. Great. I'm going to DM her. And then from there, I'll pass it to you, Sarah.
Well, yeah. So from there, she reached out, we met. I was like, who's this girl? And I thought she was like from Korea. And I was like, oh no, like I'll meet in a time that's appropriate in your time zone. Cause it was all online Zoom. But it was just like such a funny like start. And then
was this while you were in Hawaii still? Or were you already here in LA?
No, I was in LA.
Oh, okay.
But I did go home for COVID, but.
Got you.
Yeah. So I was in the Bay Area at home with my family. And then she was like in Hawaii, but also a little bit like Fullerton. Yeah. And then, we did like a class project together, and then we did really well. But yeah, I fell asleep in that class so many times with the camera on in Zoom when I could have just turned it off. But
we had like a world econ
class. But Sena actually really stood out to me because she had her camera on too, out of like the other two people in class. And
there's two people with camera on out of 20. One was me and probably another girl. And Sarah is so studious that she fell asleep with her camera on.
Nice.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Well, so context, how old are you in this time period?
Yeah, so I was like normal college student age, like 20.
You were 20.
20.
Like 19,
20, yeah.
Okay.
Because you were at 20. And then, Sena was like an older college student, but no one knew, like, it was also online. So no one knew. No. And so it was cool. She also asked a lot of really good questions in class. I was like, ooh, I definitely want to learn more about her because she actually engages. And so we did the school project, and then she invited me to join her startup team. But for me, I actually did not want to. I was like, ooh, I don't know about her. Like, oh, interesting, very
idea.
different. And I also had my own idea, Gen, that you mentioned in the intro. And so I wanted to put it into the competition. But my friend Grace, she actually was the one that was like, I think there's something interesting about Sena that you shouldn't just pass by this opportunity. So yeah, just like I remember reading some passage in Matthew and like actually like really asking God about it, because to me, like startup at that point had been all about the idea. But I think God was forming my heart where startup was actually shifting that it's about the people you do it with. Like, yeah, the idea matters, all these things, but the real thing that will get you through past the initial high of an amazing idea is really who are you doing with? Because startup is hard, it's challenging, there's a lot of pivots, there's a lot of uncertainties, but the people you do it with is what matters. And so when I was looking and just trying to suss out Sena, I was like, I can see like she has a very pure heart, very kind, really fights for people, and I could just sense out from like one call because it's so like strong from her. So yeah, then we decided to partner for the competition.
Yeah. I've had a feeling, I like felt from the Lord, like it was just a mock contest for us, just for us to have fun and learn. I felt like, man, for some reason, if Sarah says yes, I'm gonna win. Like we're gonna win. I don't know why. And this idea too, it was like and it was an interesting idea, but for us in general, we believe that work is worship. And so when we talk about startup, or even like, you know, you could say it's your dance crew, it's your business crew, it's your ministry crew, your church. Like you can go after an idea, you can go after a nation, but it really is like, or you can go after the people group. Like it doesn't matter because God has called you to those people, and that you could do anything. You could be planted anywhere with these groups of people. And so I think for me, it was like, for some reason, don't know this girl, but like, I feel like it's supposed to be, but you don't really know. And so it's about like following the inklings and like, because you have nothing to lose, because what if it does work? And so we went on that journey, ended up winning the startup competition. Immediately after, got accepted into an accelerator program that really focused on founders first, like the mental health. And so our foundation, even from, you know, some other accelerator incubators we were a part of, taught us this thing called human-centered design, which really is empathy, listening. And I think that design thinking, or, you know, human-centered design is really the gospel in action. Like, wow, that example of product building or solving problems is really who Jesus is. You empathize first and you listen. And then you start to understand and define what the problem is. But then from there, you kind of prototype, you reiterate, and then you go through that cycle again and again. And isn't that sanctification? That you empathize with yourself, and that he does that with us.
Continually prototyping and waking up like with that inner child faith that's fresh and new every day. And you're like, yeah, let's try this again. Keep listening, keep understanding, keep trying.
So there's a lot of folks that like love building something new. So I want to pause right there to kind of slow down what you guys just said, because there's a lot thrown out there. And I think it'd be great for our listeners to just key into those that never heard of design center or human centered thinking, design thinking, all those things. What are those like core principle things? And then they could dive deeper. Google it, y'all. But besides Googling it, what are some like
key tenets,
just key things that, and just little bit elaboration of why you guys felt that this was gospel centered work?
Well, like you just said, like a lot of people do like to come up with new ideas, and those new ideas definitely have potential, but there's actually a step before new ideas that actually sets the idea up and frames it in a way that could actually solve real world problems, which is empathy. Do you take the time to slow down and to really understand the person you're trying to help before just ideating and coming up with a bunch of solutions? Do you actually take the time to feel what they feel? Do you try to put yourself in their shoes? Do you try to do like a real day or a week in their life before you just figure out, hey, this is something I'm gonna make, productize, and send off to you? You know, like there's so much more of an art and a science behind loving on people in this way than just selling the idea to them, right? And so it's kind of counterintuitive though, because sometimes when you do have all these fast ideas in startup world, you just need to go speed. But this crucial step is first in human-centered design. The first step is pause, empathize with them, and don't allow like the first thought that you have to be your only thought. Go back to the drawing board and actually listen.
That's good.
The five terms, the five.
Yeah. So after that, like we work on defining the problem, because it's one thing to empathize, but there's so many problems that they may have. What is the one that you are actionably trying to solve for? Once you identify and define that, like I said, first thought, only thought is a really, really big pitfall that we can fall into. So we ideate broadly. And what we believe in design thinking is that, hey, your best ideas often come after your craziest ones. So get all of them out there. Like sometimes we're perfectionists, right? We're like, oh, like
I'm like, this makes so much sense.
This one.
I do all the crazy ideas all day.
Yeah, that's why. That's why you are who you are, and you've done what you've done, because you've prototyped and iterated so much. You've gone back to the drawing board, and you keep on ideating. And so that's the third step. The fourth step is prototyping. What is the smallest way and like the cheapest way that you could test something? And you just build that instead of investing so much time, energy into making like a $100,000 first thing, right? And then number 5, you test. And so you see, hey, was that a win or was that a learn? It's not win or lose, right? It's win or learn. And so what can I learn from this situation? And sometimes me and Sena, we actually like the failures even more because that allows us to look back at our thinking and be like, hey, how can we actually go back to square one, which is empathizing and listening to them again? Because we learned so much from this test that we can go back and listen and create for them once again. And yeah, that resilience, that's really core in like both of our DNAs.
Yeah. I love everything you just said, only because it brings like language to like so many people on the grind.
Yeah.
The ones that do it well, they do it the way you described it, the way you defined it. And shout out to my brother Solomon. We were talking about something recently, and I was like, shout out Solo. But anyways, love that man.
Hi, Solomon.
We gotta get him.
We gotta get him on the pod.
Sure.
So we were talking about something that you actually touched right into with the framework that you guys have, which is everything in life. And this is like one of those like deep conversations. Everything in life is driven by the unseen versus the seen. And everything that you could see is extremely distracting, right? But ultimately, what do you do if something isn't working out? You go back to the core, which is empathy. Why is empathy important? Because the core of it is the reason why you buy this food or you do this thing or you enjoy this product is I'm invoking an unseen emotion in you to go after that thing. So ultimately, it still goes back to humans.
Yes.
And it ultimately goes back to the unseen because we are designed like our creator.
Yeah.
And so it goes right back to God. So if we want to do it the math way, it still goes back to God.
Yeah. What was the concept that you guys were pitching? Was that MILLU?
It had a different name, but yeah, it's
Okay,
the same
so
thing.
could we go into that? Like, what was the concept, and then how did it even evolve into MILLU?
Yeah. There's a lot of reasons like that could be its own pod.
Yeah.
What does the name mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, milieu is a French American word which means one's social environment. So their ethnicity, their background, their community, their neighborhood, like how they grew up, if they had a river, like one's milieu, like he is this way because of his milieu. But we wanted to make it more cute, and so we shortened the word and said MILLU. But we want our experiences to shape people and for them to experience a true identity or a character formation. We're in the business of people formation and truly using empathy and to create safe spaces so that people can discover what that means for themselves. We particularly start with children, but we know that there's an inner child in all of us. And so what does it look like to design so that the adult that loves on this child and is bringing them out can sit down with them and kind of exchange worlds with one another so that the adult can learn from the child and the child can learn from the adult. And we believe really highly in intergenerational wisdom, and that it should be passed on. But I think our day and age lacks how. And so we're on a research journey of how do we pass on these stories? How do we pass on these life lessons? A pod is a great example. We're just sharing stories so that we can learn from each other. Because you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. You can stand on the ceiling, of my experience.
I just have a podcast idea for you guys. It's crazy.
I know. One day.
It just hit me like, oh.
Your eyes lit up. I knew.
Right.
I was
Kevin.
just like, oh.
Right.
We need to have a Kevin idea book.
Yeah.
So can you guys explain what actually is the product? I know it's for child development, right?
Are we just going in there? Yeah.
Let's get in there.
Let's just jump into it.
Yeah. Currently, right now, it is a comprehensive kit that we use an immersive story so that as children read. So typically, children read a book to learn a moral, value, characters, whatever. But the cognitive load is on them to vicariously put themselves in the main character's position to learn the moral of the story. It's 2024. We want to create immersive experiences. So as you're reading through the story, you actually stop and pause and activate the theme through crafts, games, and discussion questions. And so our flagship product, our first one, is called the Unique Verse. And what makes you quirky, different, and special is actually your superpower. So these kids and their safe adults are going on a journey of affirming each other, calling out what they see, or even if the child doesn't know, through these crafts and games, which is really fun, like a scavenger hunt to find inanimate objects and their powers. They're able to come to an ending point of being like, whoa, this is something unique in me. I didn't even know that this was a gift inside of me. Like, this is something that's cool. Like, I thought this was weird about me, actually. And so how can we help the next generation really embrace their identity, whatever it looks like, in a terms where they know that is used to celebrate others and themselves, to leave a mark here.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Why was this the problem that you guys felt that needed to be solved?
Yeah. Sorry, you want to say it?
Yeah, no, I think for us, it's because we observed. So it was COVID when we were starting the company. And so a lot of our friends were in therapy and like we say, is like whether it was formal therapy or even just couch sessions, really like connecting with one another, FaceTimes of, hey, like going back to our past. We had all the time in the world and we're kind of just pausing in the whole world for a second. And so we're going back, we're thinking about the experiences that formed us, the things that shaped us, the things that we had, but also the things that we didn't have. So actually all of our kits, they are answering this golden question, which is, what is one thing you know now that you wish you had known when you were younger? And so that is really like our why, is because we notice, man, like Sena was saying earlier, we want to give this next generation a leg up on the things that we experienced, the things we had and we didn't have. And so that's why through these kit contents, like it's not just a play session. We're really trying to figure out, hey, how do we teach these immersive, vital life lessons, these life skills that they don't teach in school? How do you have a real person affirm you to be able to know the way you want it, to be able to be confident in who you are? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers, think Mr. Rogers in a box.
I love
We love
Mr.
Mr.
Rogers.
Rogers. There's not another voice like him lately. I know there's a lot, of different content out there that models it, but Mr. Rogers really didn't shy away from hard topics, but made them easily digestible for children. And he sat there and he talked about, got the little tiger, was like, what is the assassination when JFK was assassinated? Or, sat in the pool with a black male man and was like loud and open about like, hey, we're all humans and we're here to love, but there's hardship. And taught kids that there's hardship and prepared them for emotions.
Right.
And for me, so we were really inspired by his documentary as well. But personally, for me, I've just seen, like a lot of us, growing up is not easy, especially as immigrants. And our parents worked so hard. And we have the same kind of narrative story of like, hey, they physically couldn't be there sometimes, but we know how much they love us. And I think through just the seasons of my life, I've seen redemption be such a real, tangible thing. Reconciliation be such a real, tangible thing. Through the experiences of my mom, my brother, and my father, and even myself, who, I was a street pharmacist at one point. That's not an easy kid to have. And yet the love that they poured on me so that I could find myself, so that I could heal, and the grace and the space for God to do his work ultimately. And how even now being, 31, I'm doing that for my father. That I can have the grace for his healing and for his love, because when I was doing things that he didn't like, he loved me still. And how do we get that dynamic? That's so hard. It's so raw. We're really quick to blame our upbringings and our parents. But now as we get older, we're like, dang, I like kind of understand, man. I see you as a woman. I see you as a man when we look at our parents. And so I think for us, it's like, I don't want this revelation to come later in life. Like, what if we started in the original design of like, hey, this is a family unit. And how can we create that type of bond and relationship and safety, even if it's as something as simple as crafts games in a kit, that it can go much deeper if the Holy Spirit breathes on it.
What's up, stewards? Thank you guys so much for supporting good service. If you guys love what we do, then become a Patreon subscriber. As a Patreon subscriber, you get exclusive content every single week.
From Q&As to solo reflection rounds, extended episodes, spicy takes, vlogs, and so much more. You're going to find all of that exclusively on our Patreon. Log on to patreon.com/goodservice. Thank you guys so much for your support. Back to the episode. I I started thinking recently, which is funny because I'm like, man, I'm 43 years old. Like, how am I realizing this now? Just kind of what you were saying of like, our parents are human and they are the way that they are because they also had a childhood that shaped them.
Yeah.
And, I think there's a tendency for us to think that our parents are supposed to be perfect or they're supposed to have it all together. They're not supposed to have problems. They're the ones who are supposed to teach us things. So if I'm supposed to learn from you, you better be teaching me like all the right things that are flawless. I mean, we don't actively think that, but we on a subconscious level think that, so that when they miss that mark, then we get disappointed. And then there's just this tendency to blame, right? It's like, oh, this is like my parents' fault. Like, I'm this way because my parents, like, maybe they must have messed up in some way. But I never really took the time to go back to be like, I wonder what their childhood was like. Why are they this way? Like, like just in all transparency, I had this like argument with my mom last night. And, in that moment, I'm just like angry. And then I'm like, man, why can't you see things like in this way? Why doesn't your brain work that way? And then, of course, you come out of every argument, you come out of it thinking that you're the one that's right? I mean, that's why you're arguing. You want to get some point across. And then, I have to like, oftentimes it's when you quiet yourself and you remove yourself from the heat of the situation that you really start thinking. And then when you like allow the Lord to just speak to you in the silence, you start developing grace for that person, and that's purely by the work of the Holy Spirit that we can do that. But like, it's like, man, my mom also had a rough childhood, like she grew up without parents, she was raised by her brother and sisters, and then she also married my dad, who was a specific type of way. So no wonder she's this way, and then you got to like let her be a human, just like how we're human. And I think there's this level of, I guess you don't even know how to do it unless someone teaches you, but like taking a level of responsibility for yourself. Like, I can't change her, but I can change me, right? Or I can do the things that can help me change, AKA seek help, whether that's therapy or whatever, asking for prayer, vocalizing things to like, when you bring something to light, it becomes real, right? And then you're like, wow, I didn't even know that I thought this way.
Yeah.
Or I never gave. It's like, it's scary because sometimes we don't want to bring things to light because then it becomes real. You know what I mean? And so I think it's really cool that, you guys are developing tools for children and their parents to start these conversations and relationship building skills. Because if you don't know how to do it, you don't have things like, if you don't have the tools, you're like, well, I don't even know how to do that. I don't even know how to start that. We're like, here, just try this. This will maybe help you get that going. So I think that's really cool that you guys see this problem and you guys are creating solutions for it. And like, when I think about both of you guys individually, like, I've known both of you all for like a little bit over a year now. And like Sena, I know your story, like, your testimony is wild, and like how you grew up to the person you are now. Like, I see such a boldness in you. Like, whenever I think of you, I'm like, damn, this chick is bold, But then you were saying things earlier where you were like, there are certain gifts that you were kind of like, you were free to kind of like let out and be seen. And then you were saying that there's also a version of you that kind of was like, oh, maybe I should reel that back. Can you talk a little bit about that journey and that back and forth?
Yeah. I'm coming out of a breaking season. My pastor said, "Oh, you're about to lead that and build that. God's gonna break you in the best way." I'm paraphrasing. Sorry, Will.
I was like, break dance?
Break dance. Next Olympic, LA.
Bring it back.
Ben, help me.
Ben, help me.
When God wants to give new wine, He's gonna put it in new wineskin, right? Because the old wineskin will burst because it's just too potent. And God loves us so much that he knows when that timing is.
Yeah.
Because only he knows what the next season looks like, or when his plans to reveal is. God hides and reveals. And it's only in his timing. And when we have to surrender to that, it's not in our control. And we kind of ride that wave, right? Of like, okay, I think I need to kind of go back into the secret place with him for a second. And there's times where you kind of like unknowingly get broken. So I have this phrase called the baddie lambs. I don't know if I've shared it with you.
What is that? Please do.
Emily Timmer's also in this group chat called the baddie lambs. But usually when, we talk about shepherds and lambs, and you guys have heard this, but sheep, they like wig out in the face of danger. Like if you see a wolf, they might even just like run into the wolf or just like fly off the cliff. In order to get it to safety, the shepherds will sometimes break their legs and carry it over them and walk them to green pastures. And that's the process of sanctification. Sometimes it's like, this hurts so much, but I know it's good, but why does it burn? And I'm like, I just, as a joke, I mean, this is an ideal version, but I'm like, man, God, I just want to be like a baddie lamb that kind of just trots my little behind to the green pastures and kind of like looks back at Jesus and is like, no, God, I'm going myself. Like I got, it never works out that way. And so I think in terms of like seasons where God is switching out that wineskin or calling us to consecrate ourselves or even surrender, there's a stripping away that happens. And we're faced with like what the current state of what we are. And again, I think we prayed this earlier, but like I'm coming out of a place where I've been like active with my spiritual giftings. I was in an organization that was championed and celebrated. And then coming out, I'm like, oh, I have to find a new footing. Like a lot of my friends are deconstructing. A lot of my friends are, going different career paths, or, we all have questions, and I think questions are great. But in terms of gifts, it's like, I believe that your character, he would like our character to match our giftings, because if not, like the gifts are irrevocable. Like he gives us gifts, they're irrevocable, but we want to make sure our character matches that. Like our ego, our pride, is it about us? If not, the gift will crush us. And that's not who he is. And so in those moments of healing and kind of going back into the cave, which was my last 2 years of burnout, and you guys saw me wig out hard. And Kevin, you called me every Monday for 3 months, and we got to chat. And I got to see you guys in your seasons. And it's a beautiful thing when we get to have community that are going on their separate individual journeys with God and like rooting each other on and borrowing each other's faith. But for me in that season, I was like, God, I'm too scared to like, I want to be quiet. It's too messy. God, I want you to clean me completely. I know that I'm bleeding out almost. I want to make sure that my heart is in the right place before anything else happens. And then, slowly he's like, okay, son, I'm like, so how long are you going to sit here? Like the tomb has rolled away. And so on Easter, I felt he was like, hey, just like I rolled away the tomb, I'm rolling away your burnout. I'm rolling away the season of the crushing and the breaking to squeeze all that's out there. And so now you can be free. And so that's April. And I'm still learning. I'm in transition of like, oh, what does that really mean, Lord, that I can just come out and.
That's so good.
Yeah. I love that there's this, as you say that like, all right, God, I guess it's time to move. And it's not even that too. It's not this like clear path to like, now I don't struggle with whatever I was struggling with before. And it's almost anything that God calls you to oftentimes is going to be difficult. It's never this like easy path, because then you wouldn't have to rely on him, and I think, when God gives you a calling and then you're like pretty sure that you know what it is, then you just start inching your way into that calling. But I think that's what God is calling you to. Just inch your way into it, keep going, keep relying on me. And it's probably going to be scary because, it's like, I think our default is to do what's comfortable. And it's like, oh, this is something that I'm used to doing. And like God gives us seasons of life, right? Like whether that's a career thing, a relationship, even like what you think your purpose is, like, God gives you seasons. And then when he calls you out of the season, that's where it gets scary, because it's like, wait, God, I'm very comfortable with where I was at. Like, I know how to do that. And God's like, cool, you're done. Now it's the new thing. And then, so I think there is something really cool about, I mean, that is a boldness. That's a boldness to be like, all right, God, you rolled the stone away. It's time to go. I'm not really sure how to do it though, you know? And he's like, perfect. That's exactly how to do it.
One of the things I wanted to talk about when it comes to gifts is, I was like thinking about it because like I love that it's still super unknown, whatever this next thing is right now that you're learning.
Oh yeah, I mean we know. It's just more of a
Okay.
hesitancy.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, I mean, I want to yes, and is because it's not about the calling. It's not about what it is. It's not that.
That's good.
So that's why we need to have that secret place, because that is a given. It's easy to get that. It's easy to get this, that, all of that stuff. But it's like, okay, you got it, and then you're done. Your soul is crushed. You're gone from your source.
Yeah.
You're not living out this calling. It becomes a whole separate thing, and it actually becomes the opposite thing. And so sometimes I feel like it is so important to get crushed, actually, to be like, God, like test me, refine me, be with me, because it's not really crushing. It's actually healing. And so I think that brokenness is like, okay, we can stand on the stages. Sarah and I can present. We just present in front of a lot of people, but that's not the thing. It's the process of having fun with him. And Sarah has a lot to say on that too. But
No, I love that. And so the thing that was been convicting me is, one, we always talk about that when we're like talking about the call, but it's never the call. It's just God, right? Really simple. But what's been really convicting me also in these last couple of weeks, because this is also like I took a long trip to Korea, right? Which was awesome. And speaking of traveling, I'd love to ask Sarah a question about this. But so I went to Korea for a little bit, and in that, I just gave myself one thing I needed to do with God before I came back. Was I wanted vision. I've never asked for it actually for the last year and a half. I just didn't. Not like a clear vision as far as like, here are my next like 5 steps or something, right? Or whatever I thought that would be. But instead, he didn't give me what I thought was going to be steps or things or the usual whatever answer I thought was going to come, a vision of a fiery mountain or something, right? It was none of that stuff. Instead, he just gave me a list of names, which was like super weird for me. And I was like, and I felt that I needed to invest in these people. And I was like, okay. And I shared that. And I didn't really understand that actually as I was unpacking it on the podcast. Finally, it hit me. And I don't like what I learned. Which is, I was listening to this guy talking about worship bands and how they all go to these big harvest-like festivals where there's all these people coming, and you go into it because you're so good as a band. You're like this amazing musicians and crew, and you go, use me, Lord, impact the nations, let everybody hear me, whatever. And then that's not what God was telling him, and that's not what God is telling me. It's not use me, use them, use him, use her, use this person. And I started realizing, oh man, I'm getting into a season where it's just like, all God is telling me is stop thinking me, and my call, but to help those that need that push to get there. And I was like, dang it. And so it's about you guys. It's about Gene. Yeah. It's about Ben. It's about people in my life that God intersected me with, where I could support, where I could push, where I could help. And if God uses me in that way, great, but it's more of, God, please use them. And it's been like tormenting me a little bit, but at the same time, I'm letting it go, you know? And that's just the truth. I'm just being honest, you know? Who wants to step out of the limelight, right? But
that's real.
That has a lot to do with my next question to you, Sarah. But because I got all these revelations in my rest, I love how you talked about the Sabbath earlier, and I wanted to come back to that real fast, which is in especially the youth generation, the Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the technology age of all of y'all, there's so much noise, everything is fast, like literally from delivery to whatever else you can imagine, to technology, to social media, to information. There's excess and speed, right? Is traveling a part of your Sabbath, or what exactly is this? We teased on some of the Sabbath rhythm that you put. I'd love for you to explain a little bit of that, if you can, so people could get something out of that.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is like, it's not like some people like Sabbath or some people should do it or there's a prescription for it. I really think it's just obedience, because I think God designed us to have rest. But we as a society, we have erased the importance of taking a pause. Instead, we've prioritized being able to produce, to have output, to not just like have noise around us, but actually we're incentivized to create noise, you know? And so that's just how we're wired as a society. But it just goes back to like, what did God say? He said, hey, on the seventh day, I'm going to chill, so you should chill too. So who said we should stop that?
Yeah.
And so before it's like, even talking culturally or societally or even in the now, it's just, what did God say? What is his original rhythms of life? And how do I just model after that? When Sena talks about the secret place, I think of Jesus having solitude. And how do we model after that? Like the early mornings, like, I don't know, sometimes people in my generation too, we glorify like, I can wake up like 1 minute before my 9 a.m. Zoom call with my, like, whether it's a class or work, or we like to stay up late. You know, young people are known for staying up late, but like, who said, you know, like, who said age is a barrier to like obeying the Lord? And that was something that really convicted me when I was in college. I just felt so called out. It's like, everyone tells you when you're in college, like, go party, go do all this stuff, like go live your best life. You're still young. Like even go work hard and like work long hours. Like it's okay. You're still young. Like, haven't we all heard that before? But I just felt like God say to me, like, who said that? Like, who said that you're so young that you need to work yourself to the bone? Who said you're so young that you need to go party or do all these things? Like, no, like, what did God say? And he says, hey, like, I want you to enjoy life and to do good. That's from Ecclesiastes. It's my favorite book of the Bible. It's depressing in the beginning, but it ends so nicely. Because it's about doing good and enjoying the life that God has given us. And I think what does enjoyment mean? It means that we incorporate a rhythm of rest where it's not just a seasonal thing. It's actually very like, whether I feel I need it or not, I just do it, like, because it's what's commanded of me. And I know that my Father, he knows what's good for me, and I just obey that, you know? And so since Sabbathing, I've honestly been tempted a lot to kind of like cheat Sabbath, where I'm like, oh, you know, like I slept pretty good hours this week. I, you know, have a lot of work to do Sunday night and I just need to like catch up on it. But like, it's just out of faith that God can do way more than what I can do in one extra day.
That's right.
And so who am I to be like, no, if I have this one extra day, I'm going to be able to hit these deliverables, or I'm going to be able to, I don't know, some of it can come from FOMO. Like I'm not going to miss out hanging with my friends. But, you know, if what I really need is solitude, or what I really need is a loving, accountable community, like my church community, that it comes around me, then that's what I need, because I need to obey the Lord. And that's what's going to please not only me, but also him. Like, it's just so much more free when like life is doing it God's way, not listening to what society says. So yeah, to answer your traveling question, I think I just travel if there's an opportunity. It's more like a play date with God. It's not necessarily like a rhythm. I think traveling is also a privilege, and not everyone has like means, but like if we can, yeah. And it's not just traveling just to get away, but it's to refresh my soul. Like, am I doing it to escape because my current circumstances are too hard? Or am I doing it to be refreshed? Am I doing it to be more present when I come back and not work myself to the grind? So yeah, rest on a daily level, weekly level, seasonal level. I think the more intentional we can be about that, because we want to be intentional intentional about living our lives fully for the Lord, like that brings so much joy, and He determines our pace. And we can't go faster than the pace of His grace, right?
That's right.
And so who are we to say, hey, if I do work for an extra day, I'll be X amount more productive. Like we just follow Him, and like whatever, I'm just here to do good and to enjoy life.
Yeah. Drop the mic, yo. She just went off.
I love this perspective of like who said that, like, because everybody does something based off of what they think someone is telling them to do, whether that's like
100%.
status quo,
100%.
your peers, social media, you know, and like it's such a great perspective of like asking yourself that question for every single thought that we have of like, who said that, you know? And, you know, there's that scripture where it says to hold every thought captive. And I've been kind of like, playing around with that scripture. Like, I'm like, Lord, teach me what that means. Like, what does it mean to hold a thought captive? And I feel like the Lord is like testing every thought, like testing, is that a good thought?
Good.
And if you think it's good, why do you think it's good? Based off of who said it. Like who said that thought's good? And if God didn't say that, then it's like, ooh, that's not a thought that I want to subscribe to, you know? And so, you know, when I think about, I feel like Gen Z gets a bad rap, you know? I listen to these podcasts, you know, like these business podcasts talking about like quiet quitting and, you know, all this stuff of like, you know, that Gen Z will like, you know, cop out with like, oh, mental health and like, I need to protect my mental health. And, you know, and I'm like, I get it. I mean, there is a cultural thing that's there that that kind of makes sense. But like, I think, you know, when I look to you, it's so crazy to me, our age difference, but I view you as like a peer, you know what I'm saying? And I think there's something to be said about those who, and I'm not saying this is exclusively to Christians, but I mean, there are people who have strong work ethic that are younger. And, but I think it's really important. And I think what you said is the key to that, is that like, why are you doing what you're doing? And I think that goes back to like you knowing who is telling you to do that, versus like, just kind of going blindly, you know what I mean? And I think it's so cool. Like I'm definitely gleaning a lot of wisdom from what you're talking about of like, like who is telling me to do this, and then doing it God's way. I love that you said like, am I gonna get so much more done in the one day that I feel like, oh, if I just get this, then like, can God not do exceedingly way more than that? You know what I mean? So I think that's so cool. I know we got to get you guys out of here, but
one thing I'll say to that, and we can end, is like God is very practical. Like if we understand the science of what happens on our to our brain when we pause and say, or like we take that seventh day to even like look back at the week and process, or not even have to journal or write down, but you know, in Korea we call it 멍때려, which means to kind of just space out. That is actually so healthy for your brain, because your brain is processing and collecting memories and synthesizing and organizing. And so when we're resting, it is very practical in the way that He's made it. And like, even if we look in the ceremonial hand washing in the Bible, like I believe that is really significant. I'm sure there's spiritual meaning to it, but God is also like, y'all need to wash your hands before you eat, or y'all gonna die. Or how to make bread. It's like, okay, you know, we don't have refrigerators. You want it to last a little bit, so you know, no yeast. And I feel like we look at the Bible sometimes and think like, oh, it's so mystical, or like, oh, that's nice to do, but it's like, no, it's actually physiological, biological, and it is. He made that into our rhythms and systems for a reason.
It's for our good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Speaking of good, so we you know, for this show we call it Good Service. We frequent these amazing restaurants that provide good, nourishing meals, that provide a good service, which is why we keep going back and we keep frequenting these places. So shout out Azuma and Thai Bowl Grill. Shout out Azuma and Thai Bowl Grill, TBG.
Let's get it.
But yeah, the words good service can mean different things to different people. So what does good service mean to y'all?
I'll go first. I think currently right now, to me, it means to be a good sister to anybody or whoever is put in front of me. It doesn't have to be a believer. And I know we say sister a lot, but
Yeah.
I want to be a good sister. Like, hey, when you see me, you don't just have a friend, but like a sister too. And even if it's for a short second, can I leave that feeling, hey, you're not alone, you're seen, and we're family, because we're all human here on earth.
Yeah.
We have a short, limited time here on earth. And so like during this time, it's like, hey, you have an ally. The second answer would be craftsmanship, of depth, of intentionality in the way that we work, in the way that we steward ourselves or even our gifts, to really understand that these gifts inside of us isn't for us and our own self, but that it is meant to be given out. But that there's an excellence, a craftsmanship, a stewardship that to go about it that really reaches impact for the other person, and that it's a communal act in a community, that you play one part of that. And so, and then lastly, good service really is to just kind of like be intentional and raw in the things that we're doing to show our humanity. I don't know, good service is to be you. Please be you. And that's really good service.
That's
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
Love that.
No, that's what I learned from Sena every day, is like the caliber of craftsmanship that we want to have as a standard. And like, it's very prayerful, because like, it's cool to see how like Sena slows me down. It's like, hey, we can do all this work all we want, but is it really like with God? And so, yeah, I think that just adds to the layer of craftsmanship they talk about. For me, I think good service, honestly, just very literal meeting. It's just like, I love my church. I love my church, and after every service, I'm like, "Dang, y'all, that was good." So yeah, I think it's been so grounding. I actually stayed in SoCal because of church.
Dope.
Yeah, because I realized, like, just as in business, it's not just about the idea; it's about who you do it with. I think I was thinking the same about my post grad life. It's not just about what job I get after graduating, but it's also who I do it with. And when I look at the people in my church, no one's a founder. No one really does business like I guess the weird creative ways that we do business. A lot of people are more like doctors and like, just a little bit different career wise, but their heart, like they love the Lord so much. And it's so, it just shows through their intentionality. Like they love on me so deeply. Like they saw I was kind of spiraling the past couple months, and they're the ones that reach out to me. I'm like, wow, like, that is what is good, is not doing this life alone. What is good is also that, we don't just do it for the outside, but man, they really care for my insides. And no matter how different we are, like we're pretty different. Like I'm kind of like a blue sheep in my church or something. Doesn't have to be black, but I'm like,
I don't even know what that means.
or green.
You
I
look
don't
like
know,
a blue
matcha
sheep.
colored sheep.
Yeah, matcha.
Matcha colored sheep.
Yes.
But then they still love me because
Yeah,
I'm a matcha colored sheep,
Yeah, I'm a sheep that wears Crocs. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
when our legs have to be broken, because sometimes
yeah.
we don't want to be batty lambs. We're not batty lambs.
We're not.
Like we just support one another, and that's really what they've done for me.
Good.
I think having an identity outside of work, one that roots me, keeps me accountable, that we confess sins to one another.
Yeah.
Like that's just been so healthy for me on this journey, especially these past couple of years. So
I know we're gonna get DMs on what church does she go to. So if you'd like to, you can shout them out.
Shout
yes,
the church
y'all,
out.
it's called Anchor Community Church. You should go. Let me
Let's
know.
go.
Hit me up. It's a good time. It's in
Yeah.
Walnut.
Dope,
No
dope.
gatekeeping, good churches.
Yes.
Man, I want to acknowledge both of you guys. I feel like what's so cool is that you don't need a bunch of time in terms of like quantity of time to actually see somebody for who they are. And I think in the last year that I've seen you guys individually and together, like it's just so cool. Like, yes, you guys are business partners, but I see so much more depth than that. I think because why you guys do what you do, and I know that it comes from a very true place in your guys' hearts, and your guys' desires individually to honor the Lord. I see it like I see the fruit of it together when you guys are building your business. I see friendship, I see sisterhood, and speaking of like service, like you guys are building something together to serve the world, which is so cool. And it's inspiring. I think like Sarah, when I think about you and I'm like, dang, dude, this girl's young, but like
Seriously.
she's killing it. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
That's God.
And yeah, it's
That's so
God.
cool.
And
It's a
God
blessing.
built you that way.
Yeah.
And so like praise to him, but it's super inspiring. It's super encouraging. And like, yes, and I feel the same for you. Like you're somebody who I feel is so I feel like when I see you, there's a presence about you where like you're present, you know? And I cherish those times where we've been able to like go in, you know, and also to see you in your authentic healing journey of, you know, you said you were kind of in a season of burnout and just seeing you honestly process all that, that's really inspiring because I know that it, like the fruit that I see is like, wow, Lord, you really did that and you're really doing that, you know? And so it's like, yeah, even for myself, when it's not to say you want to like enjoy someone's pain journey, but then it invites you to be like, it's
Front row
okay.
seat with popcorn.
It's like,
But it invites
oh.
you to go through a
Amen.
similar
Let's go.
or your own pain journey.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not doing this by myself,
Invitation.
you know?
Yes.
And you're talking about community and people
Yeah.
to come alongside you. You're not by yourself. We're not called to walk alone.
Yeah.
No.
And so it's just really encouraging to see your guys' individual and together journey.
Same.
Yeah. If there's something that we or our listening audience can do to serve you guys in this time, what would that be?
I think this is not to be like cliche, but if you could be the best version of yourselves, that would be like for those, like for me, like I like the hidden life. So like I get inspired by you guys and you guys give me pep talks because that's the journey of like, I enjoy the hidden life, but there's times and places where you can't and shouldn't be hidden because there's something that only you can create here.
Wow.
And
That's
when
good.
we create, we went to the thing yesterday, but also when we create, I just went to an event. When we create, we get to show up who Jesus is. I was watching this event. I'm like, whoa, like I am inspired to know God more, or I feel like he's tangible in this room because you decided to create this.
Yeah.
If you didn't create this, I wouldn't have felt
right,
another
right.
dimension of who he is.
Right.
And so, I mean, I have no personal requests other than like, please go on that journey for yourself so that I can see more of God here on earth and I can be more creative and I can be more inspired.
Right
like
here. Tell them.
please, please. And also like, please be raw with your journey because that is laughing in the enemy's face when we're not isolated and that we could be like, yo, it's hard, but look, I'm doing it and it's
right.
cringy and it's ugly. But like what Ben just said, like I watched your journey and your journey, Kev, you watched mine. It's so cringy, but we got mutual faith from it to be
Right.
like, dang,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, if you have someone in your life that's younger or older, please reach out to them to just get coffee. My life has been so blessed. Sarah's
Yep.
7 years younger than me, and my life is so rich because of her. And I learned so much from her. And all the people that are older than me, we learn collectively so much,
Yeah.
and we get a full dynamic of this experience here on life because of that. And so,
Good.
That's tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just amen to what Sena said, but also, or yes, and
business
please,
girl. Yeah.
please, make yourself a matcha latte.
Okay,
If you
okay.
have one. Just enjoy life, y'all.
I feel like your shirt was very matcha
Yeah.
inspired
Matcha
too.
vibes.
Maybe matcha
Matcha vibes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then two, if I guess I'll put this out there because you never know what'll happen. But if there's any schools that right now our MILLU kids are actually serving after school programs.
That's right.
If you guys know any school principals or like parent liaisons, we do family engagement night kind of stuff. But it's been amazing to see parents and kids and safe adults and kids affirm one another in their uniqueness. To be reminded who said, it's like, hey, let me tell you as a safe person in your life, this is what I see in you. And so we just love to see the magic and the beauty of that happen. And so that's just a dream come true whenever we
Yo,
get
I
to
know
see
a
that.
lot of church members that follow me that is part of the school.
Let's go.
Hey, let's go.
Reach
So
out.
reach
Yeah.
out, please.
Awesome. Thanks.
Dope. Dude, thank you guys, Sarah, Sena. We love you guys. We appreciate y'all. Thanks for spending some time breaking bread
was
with
it
us.
joyful?
Super joyful.
Yeah.
was
Super
fun.
joyful.
Right there, Ben.
Yes. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Good Service. We'll see you on the next one. We out of here. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you like what we're doing, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and hit that 5-star rating. And make sure you write us a review. Follow us on all of our socials at Good Service Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And make sure you follow us on YouTube and subscribe at Good Service Podcast.
Thank you, guys.
Peace.